Judging movies is already a very subjective practice, and then on top of that, you add the fact that the Oscars seem to have a certain taste for film. In favoring these flavors, they've missed out on some of the most imaginative, creative, and overall stunning movies I've seen in a long time. Here are these top 5 films that I believe they missed out on in the last decade. Spoilers to follow. First, in honorable mention, right on the outskirts of our list, we have Inside Out. The lack of animated films being nominated for Best Picture is a result of heavy Academy bias, and again, this is a topic that I've covered before. And of course, the majority of animated films that have come out don't align with the Academy's interests, but there are a few that can easily slide into the nomination pool for their respective year. One of those animated films that I believe was Best Picture quality was Inside Out. Pixar in general is notable for its standout quality films, but Inside Out makes an impression for quite a few reasons. Its concept in general is one of the smartest out there, consisting of the 5 emotions inside 11-year-old Riley and their attempt to help her adjust after a big move. On top of that, the film superbly portrays many difficult concepts such as the train of thought, imaginary friends, long-term memory, and the scene that I would have nominated the film for alone, abstract thought. But the shining star of the whole film is its theme. Most Pixar films deal with the theme of the main characters finding happiness in unexpected places. Whether that means sharing life with those unlike you, proving yourself, dealing with death, getting out of your comfort zone, or something of a similar stature. But Inside Out is very different in that it doesn't deal with finding happiness. It deals with the fact that you're not going to be happy all of the time. Sometimes you're going to feel sad, and that's okay. So for that, I believe Inside Out is one of my favorite films of all time, and I would have nominated it for Best Picture. Along with animated films, the Academy has a strained relationship with nominating foreign features for their top prize. This could have something to do with the fact that both animated features and foreign features have their own categories, but when you advertise yourself as a celebration of international industry recognition, you should extend your hand to all parts of the industry equally. That being said, the American film-going public has not been too kind to foreign films as of late because of the idea of subtitles, but whatever. If you're ever interested, you're missing out on a great pool of films, any one of which could easily be on this list. For this list, however, I chose the South Korean film Train to Busan. On a surface level, Train to Busan revolves around several people trapped on a train trying to survive a zombie outbreak. Yes, I hear you all groaning. A zombie movie? At the Academy Awards? You'd never expect it. But that's why branching out sometimes helps. Train to Busan is a fresh new take on the genre and is one of the most tightly written horror movies out there, with thrills that never stop, tensions that run high, and emotional impacts that hit hard. To say anything else would be doing the film a disservice, because this is one of those films where it's best to go in blind. But if you've been convinced to look for foreign films to fit your fancy, check out these movies. The next film is definitely controversial for many reasons. However, I believe it deserves to be on here, so on here it shall be. Hereditary is a 2018 horror film about many different things. Hereditary already had a huge disadvantage going into the Oscar race due to its horror standing. On top of that, this movie is just bananas, like holy cow. There is so much in this movie that can be talked about and symbolized and broken down, and a lot of it can be off-putting. For me personally, this film is worthy of the Best Picture title due to the emotional impact it manages to find in its horror setting. Dealing with death in many different forms, Hereditary brilliantly uses its horror setting to study the effect that death has on people and subsequently their grieving processes. This isn't the only horror film that manages to do so. In fact, I struggled between putting this and the Babadook on this list, but I figured everyone else has already done that, so I tried to think outside the box. Hereditary won't be for everybody, as it definitely isn't your normal everyday horror film. To just attempt to describe the film does it a disservice, and trust me, that includes the trailer. The only thing you need to know is that this film is a masterclass in creating a situation that you think you can predict and then absolutely turning it on its head. Also, Toni Collette's performance is outstanding and will forever be talked about as one of the worst Oscar snubs of all time. Make sure to check it out. The previous 3 movies on the list were snubbed from Best Picture due to the Academy's genre preferences, and granted, are a bit of wishful thinking. But this next film was right up the Academy's alley. Short Term 12 stars Brie Larson, John Gallagher Jr., and Rami Malek as workers dealing with daily life at a group home for troubled teenagers, and the lives of the respective teenagers they care for. And that's it. That's my logline for the movie. It sounds so simple, but this is one of the most emotionally resonant and perfect films that I have ever seen. It's one of those movies that sticks with you for so long that it's actually been years since I've seen it, and I knew it was going to be one of my first choices to put on this list. And because of that, it caused a lot of controversy when it didn't get nominated. Short Term 12 is considered one of the best and highest rated movies of 2013, and yet it didn't manage to find its way into any of the major award circles, including the SAG Awards, the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, and of course the Oscars. Which is a shame because just like Hereditary, even if the film had no chance of getting nominated, there was a lot of buzz going into that year's ceremony about Brie Larson getting nominated, so it's a shame that it didn't happen. At least she got her due a few years later with the equally brilliant Room. There's quite a few horror and thriller films on this list, but in second place we have one of the most intense and tightly written films you will ever watch in your entire life. Green Room is a 2015 horror thriller about a punk rock band that gets trapped in a green room after a gig for a group of skinheads goes wrong. An odd concept, but one that picks up steam fast. What makes this film even better is that this movie knows that as long as it does it right, it can take itself seriously. And because it did that, it was frequently named one of the best movies of 2015. Green Room has absolutely no breathing room for error, and still it's constantly making you scream, squirm, and yell at the screen. It has what could have been some of the most iconic scenes in film history if only this film was given a little more attention, including that scene when the lights go out, and that scene with the couch. I don't want to spoil too many of the others. To top it all off, it's unabashedly human with a central theme of how we hide our true selves until they're revealed in times of strife, just like the band changed their desert island vans in the film. Very few films can pull this off as elegantly as Green Room did, but its independent horror thriller roots were a triple whammy of no good news for its chances at the Oscars. On the bright side, Patrick Stewart and Anton Yelchin were both in it, so if you get a chance to watch it, and you definitely should, you'll get to see amazing performances from both of them, and the odd roles they're in that they usually don't play. We've gone through many films so far. Many relatively un-Oscar-like films that deserve to be recognized for the films that they are. However, this last film, The Florida Project, is so Oscar-like that it was predicted and expected to be nominated, especially considering the Academy had room for it. So when it didn't, there was a huge outcry over why it didn't get nominated, but there's really a very simple reason it didn't. The Academy Awards present themselves as a place of magic, such as one where a deaf woman falls in love with a fish mutant. I mentioned that because The Shape of Water is the film that won that year, and it has a very Disney-like fantasy quality, which is the complete polar opposite of The Florida Project. The Florida Project revolves around 6-year-old Mooney, who is living with her mom Haley in a Florida motel within a visible distance of Disney World. The film takes place mostly through Mooney's eyes as she and her friends attempt to create as magical a world as they can with the harsh life they were given. The difference is that there's no fantasy or happy ending here. At the end of the film, Mooney is about to be taken into foster care. In a frantic final scene, she runs into the Magic Kingdom, in what many have interpreted as her imagination giving her the best ending she can, because in reality she'll be put through the system and most likely forgotten about. And that's not Disney. That's not a deaf woman falling in love with a fish. That's not Beauty falling in love with a beast, and therefore, it wasn't Best Picture material. Hopefully you liked at least some of the films on this list. Of course, this list comes with a bit of bias, but I stand my ground when I say that the above films are all-time greats. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to comment below and make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.